Hey, this is Robbie, and I am doing my first ever YouTube video today to show friends and family the new workshop that I have put together here recently. So at the end of the video, I'll show before and after photos of the flooring, the lighting, and the walls. But for now, we'll just do the tour. So as you come in, you can see that the room is shared with the HVAC unit and the laundry room. So overall the room is about 20 feet deep and around 15 feet wide as far as usable space. So we will start right here behind the door. So rather than make this just completely empty, wasted space, this is my large scrap wood piece cart, which has casters so that way I can roll it around and clean back behind it when needed. And then next to it is my shop vac, which has the dust stopper on top. So the benefit of this guy is to take all the large pieces and big chunks of dust. That way the filter for the shop vac doesn't get the impact by it. So like a lot of the things in here, you'll notice that it's not straight and the colors are different because I used scrap wood, and the reason it's so crammed is at the time these were the only two pieces of wood I had to make the top. So it is what it is. And then also, like the cord here, this is an old screwdriver peg hook holder, and that is the wrap for the cord of blinds. So these are just things that I had laying around, so I use those rather than spend money. So when it's something like this that's just going to be solely for me, I do my best to purely use a lot of the scrap I have rather than spend money on it. So we'll start here. This is the compressor and brad nailers. Then we have palm sander, orbital sander, and belt sander with extra sandpaper, extra brad nails, and those make it a lot easier to make the projects go by a little bit more quickly. So here is the French cleat system. So these allow you to take your tools off the wall, set them on your workbench, and get to them as you need. And then you'll see the French cleat is actually a 45-degree angle here, which there's a corresponding angle on the wall so that when you put it on, it just mounts flush. And this allows you to have a modular system, so if you decide that you don't want these tools here, you'd rather have somewhere else, you can move them around. And then a dead space like this, later I can just adjust the cleat on the back and then move that piece up and then have this whole area. So the clamp wall, you can never have enough clamps, and I truly do not. So every project I seem to fumble around without enough clamps or the wrong size clamps. So I made sure I had extra space to get a few more clamps, and then I can adjust this guy as needed. Then from there, I did make sure that I sharpened every pencil for the video. I didn't want you guys to think that I was going to slack on it. So the dust right system here from Rockler, this is the 650 CFM version that does not have the remote control, which I didn't feel was necessary in a shop this size. So you're allowed to take this hose, and then you'll walk over to any of the individual pieces, and there's a dust port on the back. So the table saw, you might be able to see it from this little guy. So I would just purely hook it up back here, and then fire it up, and the goal is to take as much sawdust out of here. However, this is a job site table saw which does not have a whole lot of space left. So it kicks dust all over the room and it gets pretty nasty. That's where the shop vac comes into play with the dust right, and of course my dollar store broom behind you is always helpful. So as far as tools go, the first one is my lathe, which again, this was all built out of scrap wood. So you'll notice multiple colors, multiple textures of wood. And then down below, I've got all my bushings for pins and other turning projects, the chucks, glues, sandpaper, pin press or disassembly kit, and then face mask. So then my turning tools themselves are right here, which I don't want to put them on the wall behind me, because as pieces are turning on the lathe, I don't want to be reaching over and either hit myself or get caught up. So if anything, I may build something on the side to mount the tools, but for now, they work great just in here. So, like everything else in here, it's all gonna have casters underneath. So these two I wanted to keep close to each other, as most of the pieces go from here to the lathe. And I also mounted these in this configuration, so if I have wood going across here, the bandsaw's not in the way, or if pieces are coming across the bandsaw, the drill press is not in the way. And then the sander, belt and disc sander can come off and put it right on top of the workbench and sand as needed. So I have not used the planer here just yet because this thing is super loud and I need the family to not be home so that way I'm not waking up them and the neighbors when I have the dust system and the planer going at the same time. And as far as from here over, so the miter saw, router, planer, and table saw, those are all 15 amp tools. So that outlet and the one in the ceiling are dedicated to one circuit, and the other outlets are all dedicated to a second circuit, which allows me to use the dust right system and these tools and not trip breakers or have any other issues. So this table was, I modified Robert J. Keller's plans for the 1 hour workbench, which it was not much more than an hour. It was great. It would have been a lot closer to an hour had I followed the rules and installed this piece of plywood before screwing all the other pieces together, so I did not do that, which meant I had to sacrifice a little bit of the end and kind of butcher the end of it to screw that piece back together. So it's the height of this is designed so that it'll be an outfeed table for anything coming off the table saw, and then if I roll the router table over to here, pieces can go straight off of there into here with smooth transition and no problems. So the router table, this was originally a Ryobi router table which had legs that were about 18 inches to 2 feet high, but it had a metal panel here which was really poor design, and you couldn't change the bits without busting your knuckles and getting in the way. So instead, I can get into it now easily here, and then on this side, I have the hoses. So I just took a dryer vent from Home Depot and a PVC coupling, screwed that together, and then sealed it all with silicone so I can vacuum up the dust through here, and then just a little air conditioning foam to try and keep all dust in this area, not in any drawers, not in here. And then I have a dedicated shop vac underneath, which has its power and the power to the router going to a surge protector. So that way, whenever I want to use it, it's just one switch, and I end up having both systems going at the same time without reaching in and turning on any individual piece. So I'll have my small router in here and all the pieces for it. There's some sandpaper down bottom, my bits, and then over to the miter saw, which I have not used yet and don't want to use just yet until I get some kind of system to collect all the dust behind. So there are many, many videos on YouTube that I'll end up watching again for ideas there. So we have steel beams in the basement, which works great. So Harbor Freight magnets, and keeping all my little screws together when I'm doing a project, just put them on the table and I don't lose them, because black and silver screws disappear on this floor very quickly. And then the other little magnets up above I use for project doors to keep those closed. And as we transition over this way, this is where I have more scrap wood. But these are all the remnants from pin turnings and from chopping blocks. These are more of the exotic woods. This is just pure scrap, like 2x4s. And these are the little bitty pieces which usually go to firewood or the recycle bin for most people, but I do my best to use them for like edge bands or additional support, something here to keep these little screwdrivers from falling off, my really expensive pencil sharpeners, things like that. So I do my best to use as much scrap as I can, and then even the screws, if I have a kit that comes with screws and I have extras, I'll end up using those for something as well. And then here, another Harbor Freight discount buy, which is great, because you figure these things are going to be like $5 for this 18-inch magnetic holder. And as Specific Love Creations, your YouTube site, you know it too, use that 20% off coupon at Harbor Freight every time, and you're saving even more money. So there, extra saw blades, and that is about it for the shop. So I will have videos after this, images after this, of the walls, the floor, the lighting, before and after. So that way you can see kind of the transition and some little things you'll notice through the video. I didn't mention something like at the end of the table, there's rolls of paper underneath. So something like that. If you notice anything in here, we are curious what it is, please feel free to add a comment down below and send me an email if you want, whatever. But hopefully I can answer questions and go from there. But if you don't mind, send a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe, any of those, and I'd be more than happy to add more in the future. So thanks. Bye.